Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Michelle Stern. So, we're still talking about the Joyland Silvera murder case. And the latest is having come under pressure from the public to explain themselves, I suppose, they decide to put out a press release, a media release. And we're talking about now the director of Public Prosecution's office. Well, friends, one thing I can tell you is that there are some very startling revelations in the media release that the DPP's office put out. Yes. Bruh, bruh. When I read it, I said, eh. So it means to say when we were hearing this, it was true, and then that was partially true. And I saw, may I read something? Now the title here says, how did Mark Golding know when Melissa died? Is a very good question. And you might say, what Michelle say? Then Mark Golding didn't know when Melissa died. Where she get that from? Keep listening for you soon find out. But before we continue, me go and beg everybody please to give the video a thumbs up from now on. Please do give the video a thumbs up because when we get into it, me now remember if I ask you, so me ask you from the beginning. You do it already? Yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate it. And of course, I wouldn't mind if you would share it and come back to me. Yes, please. Thank you very much. All right. So, make us get into it right away because we have enough to discuss. Enough things to discuss based upon what is written in that 5-page letter by Mr. Dwayne Green. The media release was signed by Dwayne Green himself and it was dated the 5th of February 2026. And it says here, press release, prosecution accepts guilty plea in the matter of Rex versus Julian Silvera. Now, just in case you're wondering who is this Rex, it is actually the Latin word for king. And Regina is the Latin word for queen. So what's it saying is the king versus Julian Silvera. So you remember, so we're quarreling, right? That the Star Chamber Court is them private business and we no business in it. So he's coming to tell us now what happened, right? So am I involved in them business? So he said on the 2nd day of February 2026, the trial of the matter of Rex versus Joel Silvera was scheduled to commence before the Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Chief Justice for the island of Jamaica. On that date, Mr. Silvera was pleaded to the indictment charging him with using a firearm to commit a felony, and the felony is murder, and that was count one. And the count two was murder of Mrs. Melissa Silvera, that was count two. In response to the charges, Mr. Silvera bowled him a bouncer because he pleaded in respect of the count one, not guilty of using a firearm to commit a felony, which is murder, but guilty to manslaughter. In respect of count two, not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter. So having been bowled up bouncer by Mr. Champagne, upon hearing the pleas entered by Mr. Silvera, the prosecution indicated to the court that the defense would have to provide the basis on which it is asking the prosecution to accept a plea to the lesser offense of manslaughter as it did not arise on the prosecution's case. What did he mean by that? To understand what he meant by what he said, we have to first understand what was the prosecution's case. So what it is that they had before them. They had the ballistics, they had the autopsy, and they had the witness statements, right? Those would have been the evidence that they had. But most important of them all, they had also in their possession the statement that Silvera had given to the police. And in that statement, he said he did not kill his wife. So where you are come from now with this business about manslaughter, that is what they were asking. So let's find out now what happened next. And I want you to listen particularly well to what it is that Mr. Dwayne Green, the assistant DPP, said in the press release. Listen carefully now. On the 3rd day of February 2026, Mr. Silvera was repleaded on count 1 of the indictment, and to which he pleaded not guilty of using a firearm to commit a felony, to wit, murder, but guilty to using the firearm to commit a felony, to wit, manslaughter. Did you hear that? No. It is on count 1 that he was repleaded on the Tuesday. Evidently, he was not repleaded on count 2, which is a murder charge. Now, either he did replead to that murder charge and said he was not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter, and Mr. Dwayne left that out, Mr. Green left it out, or, as he said here, he was not repleaded. No, which is it, Mr. Green? You need to clarify that a little further. We're sorry to trouble you, of your business, but we're happy that you came out and told us as much, but we need that to be clarified. Was it only on the first count that he was repleaded? Was he repleaded on the second count too, the murder charge? You need to clarify that as well, because it's not here in this press release. So he's backtracking a little now to tell us what happened in the night before they went to court on the Tuesday. So on the Monday night, the 2nd day of February 2026, the defense provided a statement authored and signed by Mr. Silvera to the prosecution. I don't know how he knows it was authored by Mr. Silvera, but he must know what we don't know. The statement, in summary, was that on the night of the 10th day of November 2023, Mr. Silvera and his wife, the deceased, had an argument which got physical. So Silvera, in this new statement now, is changing what it was that he had said to the police. Now, if I may cut you just a moment, you remember that we had been asking on what basis the prosecution accepted the plea to the lesser charge? Because in that first statement that Silvera made to the police, he said he didn't kill the wife. So what it was then that they had proceeded on. And so they are explaining to us now that they had received a second statement from Silvera. And that is what we are reading now. So he said that he and the wife was in an argument and it got physical. Now, as I read the second statement from Silvera, which he's now claiming is the truth, because remember the first one, him said was the truth, he never kill a wife. Now him claiming that basically that was a lie and this one now is the truth. I want you to pay close attention to what he's saying. He's telling you what Melissa said. Pay attention and notice that he's not saying what he had said to Melissa to cause her to say what she's saying to him. You follow me? Yes. So let us read on. Mr. Silvera and his wife, the deceased, had an argument which got physical. He indicated that during the argument she blamed him, as she always did, for the death of their young son. Now, for those who may not know, they had a 1-year-old son that drowned in a pool. It was the father and the son that were alone at the house at the time. And somehow the child drowned in the pool. So the mother blamed him, and so did many people in the society saying, kill this. And others have worse things to say about that. Okay, so that's what he's talking about there. She blaming him, and she always did Safim fault. He went on to state that during the argument, she hurled several expletives at him and made derogatory statements about his sister and mother, which he found to be provocative, make him vex. He stated further that during the argument, she made a comment about their children, that of Fihar and Fim, picking them, the 3 boys them, which he found to be the final straw. And at that point, he lost control, discharged his weapon in her direction. He stated that it was not his intention to hurt or kill her. No, sir. Apparently, that is not what they make gun for. So when he fired it, it wasn't his intention to hurt or kill her that night. And that having done so, he panicked and left the apartment. So he's saying here that when him left the apartment, she was dead. Him say it was not his intention to hurt or kill her that night, and that having done so, having killed her, he panicked and left the apartment. So by the time him left the apartment, whenever that was, she was dead, is what him saying here in his statement. He stated that over the course of the days following her death, he thought about his children losing both parents and thus made the decision to not admit to what he had done. He never admitted to it the first day either. And the night when him shoot her, he had told nobody. Or at least that's what we thought. So that was the summary of the second statement that Mr. Silvera gave. And on this occasion, he was saying what it was that took place inside of the bedroom. And claiming that he was provoked. And that was the reason why he shot the wife. He never meant for her to die. And this now is a manslaughter case. That's what he was trying to make out. Now, let us continue. On the third day of February 2026, the defense outlined the contents of the said statement to the court. So them read the statement to the court. In response, the prosecution made submissions on whether it was proper in law to accept the pleas entered by Mr. Silvera. So this would almost seem to be suggesting that he also plead not guilty to murder and guilty to manslaughter in the case of the killing of the wife, but it's not mentioned here. We need clarity. So let's find out now what happened next. So they're explaining. The prosecution's case was based on circumstantial evidence and the ballistic findings. It will be circumstantial because he did not admit to it and nobody actually saw him do it. So you come to the conclusion it must be him do it because there could have been nobody else. And it's a ballistic report and other witness statements and so on that you're looking to use to prove his guilt, just like what happened in the Maitland's case. So what evidence did they have? The prosecution had evidence of the following. What occurred before Mrs. Silvera was killed? What occurred after the deceased was killed? And the subsequent events. The prosecution did not have evidence of what happened at the time Mrs. Silvera was killed. So what happened in the bedroom that night? That is what them don't know. Right? Except for what he said, which him say him never killing wife. Now that is what they claim. The question is, was that true? Is it true, Mr. Green, that you really never know what took place in the bedroom the night? Well, let's read on and see if there was anything that gave any clues as to what was going on in the bedroom the night in your very release that you put out. We're not saying you're lying, but you may have overlooked some things. That's all we're saying. Now, having heard Mr. Silvera's account of what took place when he shot the deceased, having heard Mr. Silvera's account of what took place, are you vouching that what you're hearing from Mr. Silvera is a fact? That language don't sound right to me. It sounds very careless, Mr. Dwayne. Next time you use the word allegation. This is what him alleged took place. Right? Anyhow, having heard Mr. Silvera's account of what took place when he shot the deceased, the prosecution took the decision after assessing the evidence, after they looked on what them have, and subject to the court's approval, to accept the plea to the lesser offense of manslaughter for the following reasons. So you're going to tell me the reason why you accept the plea, because that is what people want to know. First thing them say is that there is no evidence in the prosecution possession that can speak to what occurred at the residence when the deceased was shot and killed by the defendant. Having heard Mr. Silvera's account, the prosecution would not have been able to evidentially negative the partial defense of provocation raised by him. Further, the prosecution is cognizant of the fact that in light of the account given by Mr. Silvera, having raised the partial defense of provocation, the court would have a duty to direct the jury on the defense of provocation and the effect it would have on the count of murder, that is, to reduce it to manslaughter. Now, in Jamaica, our jurors do have the power under the law, the Criminal Justice Administration Act of 1960, that if you're charging somebody for murder and the evidence suggests to them that it was manslaughter, they can actually find the person not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. They have the power to do that. So what is he saying? If we had, Mattel will now and explain to us. You see, if we had refused to accept the plea, then we would have proceeded on the original indictment. It would have gone to trial. And if Mr. Silvera had taken the stand and recounted to the jury what he said in the statement, then the judge would have no option more than to direct the jury that, look, he's claiming provocation, and this is his statement about what took place. The prosecutor is saying, I would have had nothing to refute what it is that he was saying. He would have no evidence to refute what it is he was saying. And so what would have happened in the end is that the jury would believe him, and instead of finding him guilty for murder, they would have found him guilty for manslaughter, and we would have wasted the court's time to end up with the same result. But is that true? You seem to be overlooking something, Mr. Green. That unlike the position that you're in now, the position that you would have been in then is that you would be in a position to cross-examine his statement to see whether or not what he's saying is true. You can't do it now. You could have asked him certain questions, relevant questions. When he said that when he spoke about the children now, it was the last straw, and him backing weapon, and him fire shots in her direction without any intention of killing her. That was him describing a moment of madness. But at some point he came out of that madness. And when I read to my audience what it is that you said occurred after, in what you call the facts, it is going to prove that you could have argued successfully that what the man was saying to you in that statement is just as lie as what him said before. Because when he shot the wife, was she dead? And that you have to ask him. You would have an opportunity to ask him when you shot her because of where she got the shots. Or where she get the shots, We decide in the vagina, but them are say in the lower abdomen. Right? Now, it meant that she must have been alive. And you're going to see the reason why I say so. He said in the statement that he left in a panic after he killed her. So he knew she was dead by the time he left. But she was not dead at the time when he fired those 3 shots at her. And that was borne out in the evidence that you had before you, Mr. Bryan. So it's a simple matter of you having him on the stand and can cross-examine him on the statement that he made, claiming it was manslaughter. Because it was not his intention to kill her. He never wanted her to die. He fired a shot them in anger, and afterwards he realized, boy, I never wanted her to die. But what did he do after he fired a shot? Did he make any attempt to carry the woman to the hospital, whether he thinks she's dead, yes or no? Those are the questions that you want to ask. What did he do? Him saying panic and left the house. You want to know where was she standing, where was he when she get the shot. You want to know how long after she received the shot that she died. Those are pertinent questions that the court does not have for them record. Because he's not going to be cross-examined on it. So she died and in panic and left the house. Right? Did he make any attempt to carry her to the doctor? You see, Mr. Green, when people talk about them don't want people to die, it's like you have two persons in a house, right? The man is having a heart attack, and the wife sit down, seeing that him having a heart attack because she see it before. And when the man is begging her for call the doctor, begging her for medication or something, she just sat there. Would you come to the conclusion that when that man died, that woman did not want him to die? If she wanted him to die, if she did not want him to die, she'd do what normal people would do when them see them loved one is in a problem. Them rush them to the hospital all when them stop breathe and then find them in carrying hospital same time hoping that the doctors then can work a miracle and bring them back to life. That is what you do when you do not want somebody to die. If we see an individual having an asthma attack, do we sit down and wait till them die, or do we walk out of the room and leave them? If we did, it must be our intention that we want them to die. If we don't want them to die, what would we do, Mr. Green? We would take up the smaddy. If we can't take them up, we ball out, help, help, and run go call people. And all when him a batter and look like him now make it, we are rush him go to hospital. And hope when them put him on the pump, then can revive him with a little shocker when them put on the heart. Now that we do. If we see people out there a struggle, you have people with do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. That is because them don't want the person to die. Them are trying to save them life. When you do not want somebody to live, Mr. Green, you don't try to help them, irrespective of whether you were the one that put them in that position or natural circumstances did. You don't want them to live. So when this man come and told you that he did not mean to kill the wife, and you had him on that stand, you hold him with that question. And when the jury sit down and listen to his story and realize that the man did nothing to try and help the wife, no matter how him think she not breathing, as a matter of fact, he could have lay a trap for himself because he would have to answer and say, boy, when he go check her, she was dead, hinting that she had died immediately. And so now the autopsy report would have come in to prove that she did not die immediately. Which part she get the gunshot? What is there that could have made her dead immediately? How much blood she lost? They can estimate that too. They can give an estimated time of death, not better than the human being's account, of course. But that autopsy report could contradict what it is that he would have been telling the jury. Understand? So what you mean about you weren't in a position to refute his account of the event? That is basically what you're saying, and that is not true. How the hell you think Una did win the case with Maitland? When he took the stand with Fiend's story, Una trip him up. So there was the young lady blood on there. How much blood on there? How you account for that? And then come up with a story that the jury didn't believe. He was having sex with her and she had a miscarriage. I never heard of such a thing before. You ever hear of such a thing? And I suppose the jury didn't either. Convict him backside on circumstantial evidence. So the excuse that you're coming with, that the reason why you took the plea is because him gave a version of the events and you could not refute it because you don't have anything to refute it. You had with you the opportunity and power to cross-examine him on his statement. And that was what you lost when you took the plea. You never considered that. Or is something else going on here? Is it that this is a very high-profile case and you want to get a win under your belt, the DPP's office? Because in as much as you were the one that was taking this case, it is the DPP who is in charge. So she must have approved, or would have expected her to have approved you're going into the court and taking this plea. You know, there is a cricketer by the name of Tamar Lambert. Who remember Tamar Lambert? I believe he was Jamaica's most winningest captain. He led the Jamaica team to many victories. And if I remember right, he never lost. But people accused him, cricket fans accused him and suspected that there were cases where Jamaica could go for the runs, but he played cautious. And he played very cautious in those matches and draw rather than go for the win. And people have been accusing him, saying, no, want to lose. Saying, not take no chance. But you see, when it comes to us bowling in the final innings to win, no matter what position Jamaica was in, all when we need 56 runs to bowl out the opposition for 56 runs to win the match, somehow Tamar Lambert and Nikita Miller would bowl them down and win. Is it that we have a DPP now? That is our Tamar Lambert of the DPP's office? Is that what's going on? She don't want to lose? But there's no question of her losing. Because even if it had gone to trial and the jury found him guilty of manslaughter, yes, people criticize her and say she wasted the court's time. She could have taken the plea. But the point is, there's every chance that you would have won the murder conviction and send with the damn man for the rest of his life, because he would be looking for coming out of prison when in the 90s. He probably won't live so long. Instead, he took the plea. So they cited at paragraph 4 and 5 cases. But when I read the case, in fact, especially the one near Hanson, and I do believe Perlina Wright was the same, it was really about parole. But we will come back to them in another video, because I want to point something out to you, which I had said in the other videos, but it seemed to confirm it when I look at those cases. Now, he said, in the interest of justice and transparency, we have outlined the facts as constituted on the case file. So then gone back now to the file to tell us now what evidence they had, right? So then giving us the facts, what it was that the police had gathered on the case. Yes, facts. Sometime after 10:30 p.m. on the 10th day of November 2023, that was the Friday night. I want to pay close attention now to the date, because we want to know certain things from Mr. Mark Golding, the Englishman. Yes. Sometime after 10:30 p.m. on the Friday night, the 10th of November 2023, Julian Silvera told his wife, Mrs. Silvera, and the children that he was leaving to attend a meeting and that he would return the following day. So, remember what he had said about the children. The children made certain reports, right, about what happened that night. And Silvera gave his account about what happened that night. So, this now is agreed testimony. Can call it facts. So he told the children and the wife that he was leaving and he won't be back until the next morning. 10:30 at night, he might have a meeting, you know. Mrs. Silvera told him he could not leave, and an argument ensued. Where did the information come from? Extracted from the statement of two of the children they shared. That would have been the twins, the 10-year-olds. So this was what the 10-year-old said happened. The two boys provided the same statement. Daddy said that he was leaving for a meeting, and mommy said he can't leave the house, and then they started to quarrel. How did the two boys know it was 10:30? One of them must have said so in the quarrel. You follow? Because this is an extract from what the children were saying. This is their statement. You get me? The children then said the adults swore at each other and then he left. That was what the children heard. So even though they were in the bedroom, remember in the bedroom the incident took place, the children could hear the arguments from them room. I wonder if you understand what he's telling us here. The children heard them argue. And the children said they swore at each other. They heard the words. So when Silvera was talking about Mr. Green, that the wife was telling him a whole heap of bad word. The children is telling you that him did not tell she bad word too. Why did you not suspect that he was lying in the statement that he gave you? The second statement, just as he lied in the first. The pitney them said the two of them cussed them one another. And the next thing they heard, he left. What happened in between? The children don't know. And yet 3 gunshots were fired and they never reported that they heard anything. The police would have asked them, did you hear anything? Did you hear any loud noise, anything like that? And the children would have said no. I wonder if you understand what I'm telling you people. The man never intended to kill the wife, but somehow he managed to do it with a firearm and nobody heard the shots. The 2 boys, they heard when he left. Heard when he walked down the stairs or locked the door, but they heard when he left. This is coming from the statement of the children. What in the hell is Mr. Dwayne Green trying to tell us? He never read the statement. The children heard the argument between the parents and heard sufficient to know that they were swearing at each other. And then the next thing them hear him left. Never said they heard any gunshot. What happened next? Sometime before 6 a.m. Before 6 a.m. They never say sometime after 12, sometime before 6 a.m. on the 11th, that they've sat them on in. And I want you to pay attention to this time, Sometime before 6 a.m. on the 11th day of November 2023, they sat them on when the whole of we hear about it. After that, one of the children, who was 10 years of age at the time, went into his parents' bedroom and discovered his mother's lifeless body on the floor next to their bed. And that's how she dropped. We don't know if she was on the bed, where she was standing, if she walked there and then she collapsed. We don't know. That information was not provided in the statement, or if it was, Mr. Dwayne Green did not provide it to us. What happened when he found his mother's lifeless body? He noticed that there was blood coming from her orifices and that her dress was covered with blood. What did the child say? Her dress was covered with blood. Sometime before 6 a.m. Right? Now, the orifices are the openings in the body. The nose, the mouth, the ears, so the head has 3. And for the rest of the body, you have the anus and the vagina. If it's a man, the urethra. Right? Those are the orifices. Now notice, the prosecutor said there were orifices, not one. So Miss little bit of blood said it was coming out of our nose. Little bit of blood coming out of our nose. Well, evidently blood was coming from elsewhere, other orifices too. Right? What did the little boy do when he saw that? He ran from the bedroom and alerted his brother, who accompanied him back to his parents' bedroom, where they both checked for signs of life from the body. He must shake her, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, wake up, mommy, 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 wake up." And she wouldn't wake. A 10-year-old, And them hoping for the best, even though them papa didn't. Right? They tried to make contact with their father using the messenger kid application on their digital device and were eventually successful. That was now how the police would have determined when the call was actually connected. So they know the call was finally connected about 6 a.m. and them don't know, because them not going to know the time, Them judge from the time there now that it's just sometime before that when the boys describe what happened when them found their mother dead. You see it? Yes, that's how you read this evidence, man. Yes. So, what happened next? For what happened next, they had to rely on Joyland and Silvera's witness statement. So they said Mr. Silvera had indicated in a witness statement, we don't know if it's more than one he gave, but he indicated in a witness statement that he called the Stony Hill police station whilst on his way after he had spoken to his son. Upon arrival at the house, and they gave the address, Diamond Court in Stony Hill, in the parish of St. Andrew, Mr. Silvera went into his bedroom. Now, this now is based on the statements from his children. Quoting from Silvera's statement now, and saw his wife in a sitting position with her head leaning forward at the side of the bed. So she was sitting and her head was leaning forward. So she was leaning up on the bed. Right? He touched her, spoke to her, and found that she was not responding. But he don't know that already, because he had said he never intended to kill her and then in panic and leave the house after he did. You get me? So she was dead from the night before, not immediately after him shot her. And I will show you the proof after, because this is where the proof is. Right? The boys said she had a lot of blood on her frock. And blood was coming out of her orifices. And where them say she got the gunshot, in her left side and her right side, that wasn't going to kill her immediately. Right? And how we know she did not die immediately? The blood. As long as the heart is pumping, the blood will continue to flow. Unless the wound starts to heal up itself, then it might stop. You follow? Yes. Good. Let us continue. Sometime after, the first responder, who was an officer of the Stony Hill police station, arrived at the house and went into the bedroom where he saw the body of Melissa Silvera. He took a photograph of the body with his Samsung cellular telephone, and Mr. Silvera cried out. He had Mr. Silvera cover the nude section of the body. What did the boys say when they went into the room? What did they see? Mommy was wearing a dress that was bloody. But when the policeman arrived on the scene, there were nude sections of her body. The first responder did not further examine the body as Mr. Silvera was still crying, so he put up a show so the man would look and see a bullet wound in her body. But then again, he clearly never saw that there was blood on her dress because she wasn't wearing any dress. So he took off the clothes off of the woman, never put on nothing on her, right? And when the policeman come trying to look at the wife, take photo of the wife and start to holler and carry on, so the man left. The first responder, after learning from Mr. Silvera that Mrs. Silvera had no known medical condition, so she not had no high blood pressure, she not had low blood pressure, she not had diabetes, she not had no known medical condition, indicated that a post-mortem examination would be conducted to determine the cause of death. He then contacted the House of Tranquility Funeral Home for the removal of the body and then left. So, the policeman went to the police station and entered into his logbook that the death was sudden death. And that was what triggered now the autopsy. He then went on to say when the morgue attendant arrived at the house and the body was removed and taken to the morgue, the prosecutor just outlined to us parts of statements that were given by the children, two of the boys, I think they were the twins, they're twin boys, and what Silvera said, and also what the first responder, the policeman who arrived, had said in his statement, because he would have had to give that statement about when he went, what happened, and that he left. So he never suspected foul play because he saw no evidence of foul play and he never examined the body. So the boys, when they went into the room, they saw the bloody dress and the blood coming out of the orifices. But by the time the policeman arrived, there was no blood coming out of our orifices because they never said he saw that. Then he might have decided to check her out. But he left. There was one individual that I spoke to who was on the scene. He said that when he arrived around 9:30, they were wheeling her body out. So this would have been 2.5 hours after the boys discovered the body. Now, if I remember right, I heard the news on social media. People were talking about it. But one of the first persons that put the information out was Mark Golding. But that is not strange that he should put the information out. But in light of what Dwayne Green, the prosecutor, said, that they having evidence from the boys and from Silvera himself, the information that Mark Golding put out was startling. Remember, the boys found her body sometime before 6 a.m. And it was the boy's statement that around 10:30 the night, the father announced he was going to a meeting and it caused a quarrel between the parents. They were cussing, hurling bad word at them one another, and then the father left. That's what was in the statement of the boys. So the only persons who knew when Silvera's wife died, when Melissa died, was Silvera himself. The boys didn't know until 6 a.m., sometime before 6 a.m. the next morning. And yet, here was what Mark Golding said on his Instagram page and also on his Facebook page. I was looking for the one that he said on Twitter because Twitter would give you a timestamp, not just a date stamp. But let me read for you what he said on Instagram. On his Instagram page dated November 11, 2023, which was the Saturday morning, my sincere condolences to the Silvera family on the passing of Melissa last night. When the body was not found by anybody other than the Silvera's children before 6 a.m. That's at the morning. Mark Golding is saying on his page that she had passed away in the night. Now, Mr. Mark Golding is a well-educated Oxford graduate, a white man, an Englishman. When them talk about night, when them say good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, and good night, them know what them are chat about. We have a way of when we see people between 6 and midnight or maybe between 6 and 6 a.m. in the morning, we say good night. When the hours between 6 p.m. and midnight is known as evening. And between 12 midnight and 12 noon is morning. Some people call it the wee hours of the morning. So you know, so it's after 12 in the night. Right? Not him. When him say last night, he mean last night before 12 o'clock. You follow? And it's usually, I think, between 8 and 12, many people refer to in the night as like last night. Right? Now, so when them tell you that she had passed last night, it mean to say at the Friday night she had died. Who told him that? When only Silvera alone know when she died, the children didn't know. They heard the argument, they heard the bad of them a fling, right? And then they heard when the father left. What happened in between? They never heard. They didn't know what happened until just before 6 a.m. in the morning. So the only person who could have told Mark Golding that Melissa had died last night was the man who killed her himself, Joyland Silvera. The question is, when Silvera told him that Melissa passed away last night, what else did he tell him? And did Mr. Golding go to the police after he heard that the wife was shot? What did he do? Did he contact the police to give us voluntary statement as a civic duty in the protection of the society? Did he do that? Or did he shut his mouth? As a matter of fact, this was what he did instead. This was a post he made on Facebook, and then he edited the post twice. Now, we believe this is the first one. It says, "My sincere condolences to Comrade Joel and Silvera on the loss of his wife Melissa, keeping your entire family in our prayers during this most difficult time." The first edit was to add the photograph. That's the photograph he added. Then he made a second edit on the same day to add words. "My sincere condolences to Comrade Joel and Silvera on the loss of his wife Melissa, who passed away last night." So I edited the post to add that in. He had left that out. "Keeping your entire family in our prayers during this most difficult time." But you see, by the time December 16 came, remember the autopsy was done on the 15th of December 2023. And then George was the one that bust the news. So the following day, he went in and did another editing. What did he edit out? "My sincere condolences to the Silvera family." So it's no longer to Comrade Joel and Silvera on the passing of Melissa last night. So I left the last night in there. Keeping the family in our prayers during this most difficult time. So he's insisting that it was the Friday night that she had died. How did Mark Golding know that the wife was dead from the Friday night? It had to be Silvera who told him. The next question is, what else did Silvera tell you, Mark? And what did you do with the information? Did you cooperate? Remember, say you're leader of the opposition, you know. Did you seek to cooperate with the police? Now I hear on social media and certain platform the allegation that Silvera was coerced. You see, one of the things that the Chief Justice had to ask Silvera was whether or not he understood the consequences of what he was doing. Whether he was coerced, right? Anybody have forced him to do it? And in making this plea voluntarily. And Silvera would say, "No, sir, nobody coerced me. I know what I'm doing. I understand the consequences. And me say me want it. And therefore, I enter the plea." Now, the prosecution would know that based upon the crime that he committed, that it is likely that I'm going to get a life sentence. And here is why. According to the Criminal Justice Administration Act of 1960, at 42F, reduction of sentence of life imprisonment, it says, "Where the offense to which a defendant pleads guilty is one for which the court may impose a sentence of life imprisonment, and the court would have imposed that sentence had the defendant been tried and convicted for the offense, then, for the purpose of calculating a reduction of sentence in accordance with the provisions of this part, a term of life imprisonment shall be deemed to be a term of 30 years. But remember, the law was recently amended to make life imprisonment a minimum of 40 years. I don't know what will happen when the case come up. But the point that I'm making is that had he not plead guilty to manslaughter and he had to go to trial and face the jury and was found guilty, and if the sentence the judge would have imposed was life imprisonment, which would mean a minimum of 40 years in this case, then when it comes to the matter now of the him pleading guilty, the judge have to take into consideration what he would have done had he not pleaded guilty and the jury had found him guilty. That's what that seems to be saying. So, him going to face a whole heap of years in jail. Now, they have discounts. And because his guilty plea was made on the first day of the trial, it appears as though his discount will only be 15%. You see? So it will be 15% of either the 40 years which will be 32 years minus the time he spent in jail already, or 15% of the 30 years, which would be 25 years, 6 months minus the time he spent in jail already. And come March 6th, we'll find out which is which. I don't know if in Silvera's head, why he was smiling so much when he came out of the court when they accepted the plea, he may be thinking in his own head, not that his attorney told him that, maybe him being optimistic, that the judge probably going to sentence him to 15 years for manslaughter. And then it's based on that now, he would get parole in lesser years than that when he get the discount, minus the 2 years. I don't know, right? But if he was coerced, or let's put it this way, if the case goes against him in terms of what his expectations are, as opposed to what they told him it will be, and the case go against him, do not be surprised if him not claim that he was coerced in order to get this sentence quashed. In that event, I do believe the higher court, Court of Appeal, probably would order a new trial. And then now he can go either plead guilty or him plead not guilty. Well, as old time people say, no, not go or something not come, so we wait. But I'm going to have to tell you some more about the press release, because there are other interesting things. They're not quite as exciting as this, because what the prosecutor proved is that Mark Golding knew. So you see, when people out there say we had tell lie upon the man, you see it for yourself. He knew that she had died from the night before. As to whether Silvera had confided in him and told him that he killed the wife, that I don't know. But what did he do when he realized that the woman was murdered, and very possibly by the husband? What did he do? Anyway, that's it for me today. I want to thank you for joining me, for sharing, for giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.